I met a gypsy.
A really quick clarification. There are significant and tremendous performance benefits to foundation training. Luckily, accidentally. It is a pain relief program, clinical program, true and true. Like, we are from beginning through to the back end focused on accurate, obsessive compulsive level symptom relief. That movement pathway happens to activate and correlate and integrate muscles incredibly. And the performance benefits are just there, here. You're going to walk better. You're going to run better. You're going to swim better. You're going to bike better. You're going to sit better. You're going to stand better. Sleeping better if it's a pain issue that you're not sleeping because of. We can usually help with that significantly.
Yeah, it would make sense because I know for myself, like I get that kind of like deep back pain, psoas kind of pain. And sometimes that'll stop me from sleeping. And then my buddy that I was telling you about that's having the pain, he was saying he's having like a ton of trouble sleeping.
Yeah,
so that would make sense.
And that sleep pattern perpetuates the pain because you're not sleeping as well. You're not getting rest.
You're not getting the growth hormone release.
So we talked about jujitsu. Before we came in here, I talked to you a little bit about Rickson Gracie. I've had a very amazing introduction to jujitsu through Rickson Gracie. He went on a Joe Rogan podcast a couple of years back and talked about the severity of his back issues, and that led to us being introduced. In fact, Jesse Salas worked with him for a long time, really delivered foundation training intensely to him, and then I came a few times and worked directly with him as well. And one of the major things that I was actually able to help him with was pain when sleeping. Because what he would do, he has, back pain, sciatic pain, normal pain. But when he would wake up in the middle of the night with pain, he would open his legs apart from each other trying to stretch, like a figure 4 stretch or a clamshell stretch.
I literally do that in bed sometimes.
Don't fucking do that
Really?
ever again.
No
Anybody listening. And I say that with so much intensity and enthusiasm because it's that different. When that pain comes, I want you to roll. So is it right-sided or left-sided?
So what I would say, I've noticed over the last couple of years, I always want to cross my legs in bed.
Good.
So, but it doesn't, like if I'm just laying straight, then I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to like cross my legs.
What I want you
over
to
each
start
other.
doing instead is rotating them at each other.
Yeah.
But much more important than that. So let's say it's your back is hurting you.
But so I can't keep them there.
No.
Like I have to like.
You don't need to.
Yeah, okay.
I want you to turn on your side for a little while and do both sides. You're going to turn on your side with one leg, the bottom leg straight out, the top leg wrapping over it. Does that make sense as I say that?
Yeah.
Like a 90-degree knee bend or so?
Kind of like the stretch that you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the key is that top leg is trying to close towards the center of the body.
Yeah.
It's trying to rotate in kind of hard. In fact, if you can get that cramp in the hip, you won't have pain for the rest of the night. The pain comes because of SI joint compression forward. When the hips turn away from center, it pushes the sacrum forward under the meat.
So is that
of the
why
glute.
you get the pain in the front of the hip joint?
It's stretching out that's a psoas, that's an iliacus. There's a couple muscles in there that would do that, most likely the psoas. But it is the discrepancy of the tight, short butt muscles that open the hip versus the over-lengthened adductor groin muscles that close the hip.
Yeah.
That discrepancy is what leads to the hips turning out. And that turning out is what leads to psoas and other back pains. So we want to turn in. When your back hurts you in the middle of the night, you want to turn and zip it up. You want to zip everything in. And that zip up tractions the pelvis and allows the sacrum to dive back into its posterior position, its backward position, which is necessary for pain relief, very much so.
Yeah, okay. So then we've got that first, let's say that first month. What are you going to kind of start to see as you get deeper into this type of work? I love that you call it work too.
Let's work.
It's not training, it's work.
No, it's work.
We're here doing work. Yeah. I like the way you say that.
Training's easier than work.
Yeah.
And it looks cooler too. Our work doesn't look very cool.
Yeah.
It's not fancy. Some of the grill lift, the surf squat, those are cool. Windmill, those are cool looking poses. Most of them are pretty boring looking. They're very simple looking. You're doing a lot more than they look like, but they're very simple. We're a month in. What will you expect to change? At a month in, you should be able to touch your toes for sure if you couldn't before. That type of thing. Like flexibility should be either reined in. A lot of people come to foundation training with way too much flexibility. Gymnasts, dancers, surfers, especially young surfers that can just like flop around and they're always turned out. They got too much motion. Your body's moving too much. You got to rein that in. You got to stabilize. You need structural integrity. So by a month in, you should notice significant improvements in your range of motion, be it more range of motion if you were too tight, or stabilized
More
range of motion,
range of
much
motion.
more control.
Yeah.
And a direct correlation to improved range of motion, decreased pain symptoms. That's not my correlation to make. That's your body and your brain understanding. Because that correlation made over and over again is what keeps people doing it.
Yeah.
It's not because you're supposed to do it. It's because it gets you out of pain every time you do it, to the point that you don't have to think about doing it. You just kind of do it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then you don't do it anymore.
Yeah. So what would be like the time suck of a person doing this?
We recommend 10 minutes focused every day.
That's nothing.
It's also a lot. It's 10 minutes of focusing on movement. If you don't do that on a regular basis, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Break it up into 2 minutes at a time if you need to. But we have a lot of videos that go between about 8 minutes and 25 minutes.
Yeah.
25 minutes of hard foundation training, you'll be in a pool of sweat.
Yeah.
You'll be your body will be exhausted. You're literally pulling your muscles against each other. And I say that over and over because people don't understand it until they're in the pose and like, why is it so hard? It's like, this is why it's so hard.
Yeah.
You're playing tug of war within your own body.
Yeah.
So at 4 to 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in, I mean, really, the difference of 1 month to 6 months isn't that big, but the difference of 6 months to like a year and a half is significant. 6 months, you're still teaching the pattern. You really are. It takes a year for the pattern to get in there. So at 6 months, you're feeling much stronger. Your movement pattern is hip driven. Your pelvis leads rotations, leads flexion, leads extension. When you walk or run, your hamstrings and glutes are the predominant propellers. And it's all because you've cleaned up your nerve pathways and the pain pathways. At a year and a half to 3 years, you're now like a student of your body. You're now learning. You're not on founders and basic stuff anymore. Those are included, but now you're into like rotational stuff. You're into spiral stuff. You're understanding the pulleys of the body like a student. You're practicing every day, but you're understanding, and you're now able to utilize foundation training without any instruction in the field. I'll give you an example of Brian Fishbook, a guy that came through so I met him as a patient when my first book came out. He heard about it, and he's a mountain rescue in Whistler Blackcomb. Very fit guy. He's about 10 years older than me, so he was probably in his like late 30s, early 40s at the time. Really bad chronic injuries, knees, really bad chronic back. Couldn't get in the helicopters, had to take helicopters everywhere, couldn't get in and out, couldn't carry anybody, couldn't work. Ski patrol, couldn't do any of the stuff he had to do. Within a year, he was good. Within 5 years, so 2017 or so, 2016, he actually came to my certification, and he came because he's like, I need to understand what this is.
Yeah, like, why did this do this?
I've been exploring my body since I started this, and I've been he's like, I move everything different now. No matter what I'm doing, I can make it into a foundation training maneuver. And he's like, I had to understand. Okay, cool. Came and understood. He came to visit just as a buddy, maybe 4 years ago. Yeah, my daughter was like 2. So like 4 years ago, same thing. Oh, dude, I just unlocked this. I can't believe I'm unlocking this. You start to you get to do what I do. You get to develop this in yourself. You get to understand the process of what it felt like to develop foundation training, because all I had was sensations. There was no educational preparation for this.
Yeah.
No educational preparation for this of any kind. I actually had to very much be insular. I couldn't listen to anybody else. I kept hurting myself. I had to do this myself. And what people get to experience now is the shortcut to all of that. Shortcut takes 5 years. It really does. Maybe one day we'll get shorter than that, but the shortcut takes a long time. But you become such a skilled, that's a weird word. You become extremely in tune with your body to the point that
very aware.
You now own cage theory.
Yeah.
And can apply it to everything. You can play any kind of music you want to with it.
Yeah.
And that's how foundation training works.
Yeah.
And I actually got to there's a company called STARS, which is a helicopter ambulance nonprofit in Canada. They have 6 big locations, and they're badasses. They show up in a helicopter, they take the injured, they take them straight to the hospital, and it's a nonprofit. They reached out to us because they're in crammed helicopters. They're always hurting. They showed us the pictures of the helicopters. And I actually got to talk to Brian, because he does those things, and Brian Fishbook, and he was like, helping me to talk to them. I was like, so just give me a heads up. Like, how you doing? What's going on? He's like, bro, it just keeps getting better. I can't believe it. It just keeps getting better. He gave me a couple stories of what was going on. I was just like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. So I don't know. I guess I'm both a good and bad salesman. If I tell the truth about foundation training, people are going to want to try it. If I try to like pretend that it's not as good as I really believe it is, then I'm just going to look awkward and weird. And reality, it's pretty fucking good.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.